We are live. This is a part of the Yes California one-on-one set of events where we interview candidates who are ballot qualified candidates and will be appearing for the election for the recall. With us today is Heather Collins, a Green Party candidate. She's ballot qualified. She is someone who could potentially be the next governor of California. We're going to talk for a few minutes about her campaign, and then we'll spend the second half asking the question that we like to talk about what sort of future government California should have. Candidates don't have to agree. We just want to have a friendly conversation. So, Candidate Collins, that really rhymes well. Candidate Collins.
Collins sounds better.
Yeah.
Or Madam.
Yeah. In 2 minutes, how would you like to be seen? How would you describe yourself? What sort of candidate are you? What sort of main issues are you running on? If you could be seen as anybody that you want, how specifically would you describe your campaign for the office of California's governor, the world's fifth largest economy?
Well, I would like to bring California back to its golden state status because we've lost that in the last 4 years or probably more than that. The state that people used to want to live in and were able to build businesses and was the pinnacle of industry and technology and the place where people wanted to vacation or visit. It was the golden state. When I moved here as a child from Ireland, I was so excited to come here, and it was everything that you could possibly imagine. I mean, the streets were not paved with gold, but opportunity was clearly around, and I just loved it here. I still love it here, but I'm slightly disappointed with the Democratic leadership that we've had lately. But I want to be known for fixing the homeless crisis that we have now, refunding the police and respecting them and letting them do their job. The environment, we need to manage the forests so they don't burn as drastically as they are, and that emits so much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and it's gone clear across the United States, and that increases the climate, and clearly not good for climate change. I'm a green candidate, so that's very important. And getting the drought handled, we need to put money into desalinization and getting more water storage, and letting the farmers in the Central Valley get more of the water that they need. If we can get desalinization along the coast, then we can let some of the other water go to the farmers. We feed the world.
So you're looking at blocking the defund the police movement, but you're also looking at stopping the forest fires, which are bad for the environment and dangerous.
Yeah.
And you're also looking at a primary focus on providing more fresh water in the drought through desalination. There was a fourth thing you mentioned, I forgot.
The homeless, and then also one of my things is education is the key to ending systemic poverty.
Okay. How would you fix the homeless problem? What is your specific policy prescription for that, for the voters to understand?
Well, mine is a fairly quick fix that is more economical than what they're planning now. So the people that cannot take care of themselves, I think the state's job is to take care of them. They need to be put into treatment, and there's closed hospitals and closed military bases that could be repurposed pretty quickly for that purpose. And the ones that want to remain unhoused, I would like cities to take over 8 to 10 story high parking structures or parking-like structures in downtown or industrial areas. They can build them too. It wouldn't take that long. Each person could be assigned a spot. They would be protected from the sun and the rain, but there would still be airflow going through. They can bring their pets. They can bring their belongings. They can move with the communities that they've formed on the streets, because we've all formed communities ourselves. We're all human. And we wouldn't want to be pulled out away from the community that we've formed into something that's just isolated and a lot of rules, because that's what's happening with Room Key. They're taken away from the people that they've formed relationships on the street, maybe security with them or something, and they're put into these random hotel rooms where they don't know where the others are, and then they are lonely, they're isolated, and they go back out of the streets. So the parking structure idea, there would be uh, toilets, showers, laundry. They would have a mailing address. They can have access to banking, so they don't have to have all their money on them, which would increase the chances of them being robbed for that, clearly. And if they don't have their IDs, because maybe they were lost or stolen or expired, they don't have the paperwork to go get more IDs. They don't have the money to get their IDs renewed. So they could have access to getting their IDs, getting GED, job training. There could be work crews that come by that would hire some people for a few hours doing something like clearing areas or whatever, and they could get a little bit of money for that. Just trying to reassimilate them back into society. There would be security there for them and for the surrounding neighborhoods as well. But when they have a place to go to the bathroom, to shower, to have clean clothes, they would feel much better about themselves. Our society would feel better about them too. We wouldn't avert our gaze. If somebody's walking down the street that's, very bedraggled and dirty, and clearly if they're in that sort of situation, they're not getting proper nutrition. So, all of those things combined will help them, feel better about themselves. They'll feel better being in society, and we want to get them back to being productive people that can get apartments and have families, a good life. Living on the streets is dangerous and harsh, and it's not a camp on the beach. I also learned when we did that thing 2 weeks ago with Quinn.
Thank you for coming out. Thank you for coming out. That took a lot of courage.
That was so emotional and eye-opening and everything. But when she told us that 99% of women get raped when they first become homeless, that was shocking. So there could be a floor just for women. It's not something that it's a conveyor belt to get people back into society. It's to get them at their own pace back into society, and some of them will not be able to go back into society, whether they're like very disabled, they won't be able to work, or they don't want to. Then they can stay there. It'll be their place, and they can get all the amenities of basically a home with a community, with the mail and the toilets and the showers and the banking and stuff like that. So that's my plan. It's a little out there, but it's relatively quick. It's less money. It's centralized, so you don't have people all over the city. Groups that feed the homeless would have one location to go to instead of branching out throughout the city, and it could be done really quickly.
What do you mean by education is the pathway to ending poverty?
I think it's the key to ending systemic poverty.
Okay.
Because, there's some cultures that don't appreciate their younger generation doing better than the older generation, or they just feel like they can never, progress beyond what they already are at. So education, like giving kids confidence in themselves to do things, to explore different things. Education has to be relevant to people. You can't just force them to remember certain historical dates and things like that, and expect them to leave high school and be able to work. I think they need to have like financial education. So, like, how do you survive when you leave school? You know, if you get a job, what happens when you get a job? Like, how do you go about all these things? Like, if you want to live in a, you know, $1 million home one day, what kind of things are you going to have to do to achieve that? You know, these things are all achievable, but if people don't know, then they're not going to be able to do that. And if their community is saying, no, you can't do that, we just don't do that, then they're going to believe that. But if you educate them to thinking that they can achieve whatever they want. I mean, I'm an immigrant from Ireland. I'm running for governor of California. You know.
I love that so much. I love that, you know, Kevin Call, Diego Martinez, Heather Collins, Joe Simon, immigrants who think I'm an equal citizen. I've lived here. I have just as much right to steer the ship and have everybody listen to me. And there's literally no intimidation of, you know, I wasn't born here. Nobody's thinking like that, because in California, we love immigrants and you are Californians. I cannot support the embodiment of what you're doing more.
Thank you.
I mean that.
Thank you.
So you're saying that the education system doesn't teach people how to develop wealth, hold on to wealth, and not get into poverty. And so if we provided new education in our public school system to do that, we could start to chip away at the root causes of systemic poverty. Is that roughly correct?
Exactly. I mean, that's going to take some time.
Sure.
It takes a while to go through school, but to get the communities involved with the kids going to school and everything and making it a great place for them to be, like, you know, just for the community to come out on first day of school and cheering the kids as they're going into school. You know, that's one little thing that the community could do to, like, really encourage kids and, you know, make them proud that they're going to school and that they're learning stuff and they're able to do things.
I'm just putting up some of your contact information. We are speaking with Governor candidate Heather Collins. She can be reached at california@governorheather.com, or the internet. You can go to www.governorheather.com. So that's california@governorheather.com or governorheather.com. Her policies are making sure that the police are properly funded. But she's swinging around and embodying the idea we've got to stop the fires burning down half of California. She's also worried about the drought. So besides increased climate stressors of forest fires and drought, she has a plan to stop the forest fires and improve the drought conditions through desalination. She's also looking at the homeless problem and proposing a strong but plausible scenario of using previously unused military bases and in the rural areas and parking structures in the urban areas to provide housing for the unhoused along with services there. And she just explained her plan to make sure that we start teaching household understanding of money and how money works and how to develop wealth and retain wealth in our public education system, which the governor candidate maintains we're not doing now. So those are the 5 major policy areas and prescriptions for change candidate Collins is presenting. Again, you can find Heather Collins at www.governorheather.com or email her at california@governorheather.com. I'd like to touch on something, if I may. You have been here. You've lived through the 70s and 80s, the famed Golden State era of California, when everything was shiny and worked perfectly. I never saw that, but many, many people describe it, and I know in the history books it actually happened. So things worked well. We were the envy. Roads, schools, infrastructure, education, tourism, lifestyle. It was the best of everything. And it existed here for a couple decades. So we know that it's possible, and we know that it's sustainable because it existed for decades. It wasn't a fluke. It didn't just happen and then flutter away right away. One of the things that you said was you want to return to that era. I think you described it as an era where you knew there was opportunity. What are the top 2 things that California's done wrong to destroy that era of opportunity? And what would you do to rebalance them to return us to that golden era? Candidate Collins.
Well, for one, overtaxation. We are the most taxed state, and there are tons of businesses, large and small, that are leaving California because they are so overtaxed. I mean, I have a business here, and it's, I have a hair salon, so I can't just take my business like to Texas or Arizona and have the same clientele. So, but if you're manufacturing something or innovating something, you can do that. Um, I I have two kids that live in the state, and if they asked me, I would probably say, choose another state because it's going to be really hard to get ahead in this state. And so I would lower the taxes. There's a lot of duplicity with the taxes too. So I know that the California auditor had gone through and found a lot of flaws in the system, and that was supposed to be presented to the state legislature on August 16th. But on August 14th, the legislature, which is mostly Democrat, postponed that until after, or like till the end of September, which is after the election. And all of the information was looking bad for Newsom. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Just the fact that you're aware of that in the games they were playing really shows an interest in a clear concept of how the manipulation happens. What is the other major thing that you would do besides lowering high taxes to get us back to that famed period where opportunity abounded and flourished?
I've got a lot of things going through my mind right now.
Oh, I know, but just off the top of your head, because you were there and you run a business and you've experienced the high taxes.
Yes.
So that's a no-brainer. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, lower the taxes is going to definitely keep a lot of people here. And, with lower taxes, then the businesses come back. They can pay their employees possibly higher wages because they're not paying it all out on taxes. And then people make a better living and things like that. So
let's go to a tough question here. Most progressives, you're on the Green Party, and I believe you said you were a Democrat before then?
Yeah. Since I became a citizen, and it's funny because like with 9/11 today, it was 20 years ago last week that I applied for my citizenship. And when I might try it open. When they attacked the United States, I was like, how dare they attack my country? And I felt so patriotic, and I was so happy that I applied for my citizenship then. So I appreciate all the service people and the first responders and everything like that. That I was watching some 9/11 stuff on the TV today. So anyway, so yes, I was a Democrat the entire time up until a week before I put my application in to run for governor. And because I was disappointed with the Democratic leadership. So instead of complaining, I thought, why don't I just try it? Like, what's it going to hurt? And at first, I wanted to be independent at first because I didn't really know that much about the Green Party. And when I called the LA County Registrar's office, they said, well, that's not a party. You can be American Independent. I'm like, okay, I'll be that. And then when I looked at the American Independent Party right after that, it said marriage is between a man and a woman only. I'm like, that's not me. Okay. No, sorry. Whoops.
It's a big scam.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been tricked.
Right. So,
yeah.
So I looked at the Green Party and I said, that really resonates with me. And so I started with the Green Party. And I'm one of two people running in the Green Party. And the other Green Party, which I'm shocked that the Green Party is endorsing Dan, how do you say it?
Pelovitz.
Yeah. I'm surprised they're endorsing him because he does not want the recall. And so now the Green Party is saying they don't want the recall. And I I'm like shocked that they don't want one of their candidates to be governor, and so like at least, well, I don't know why they wouldn't endorse me, since I actually do want to become governor and I want the recall and I want things to be fixed in California, like stop the governor's emergency mandate, stop uh, all kinds of things. I lost my train of thought again. Sorry.
Well, the question though is that you're saying that you were a Democrat
Yeah.
and now you're a Green Party, and those are two kind of progressive parties. But you've clearly talked about how you're a business owner, the tax climate's rough, it's hurt your business climate, and that needs to be repealed. That's a traditional talking point. Why is it that you're otherwise a progressive, but you're saying something that we don't really hear the Democratic Party or the Green Party talk about, and that's the horrible business climate, and that it actually does hurt small business owners like yourself? How come you're saying such a unique message for your entire stratosphere?
Well, because if we're not fiscally conservative, we're not going to be a state. We're like, if I wasn't fiscally conservative in my business, I would be out of business. So we can't keep spending all kinds of money and not getting something for it. Like we're collecting a lot of taxes, but it's not going to where it's supposed to be going. And then they're like, oh, we still need more money, so let's collect more taxes. And it's just an ongoing thing. And I don't know why people haven't stood up for this sooner. Um, you have to run a state like you would run a business. So you have to, provide the services for a reasonable price and hope that it all works out well. You can't just say, well, today we didn't have that many people in, so I have to charge you $10,000 as opposed to the $30 that it normally would be if we had, other people. And when we're losing these businesses, we're losing the tax revenue. And when people move away, we've lost a Senate seat because people have moved out of state. This is the first time in California's history that happened, and that was under Newsom's watch.
It's true. Why is it, but to zero in on this, why is it that you got to be nice to businesses, tax climate's hard, small businesses are hurting, and yet for most Californians, what they're going to hear from the California Democratic Party and the governor is the climate's never been better, things are super great, there's no problems with the economy. And if we look at the Green Party, traditionally, they have not been pro-business. So you're taking a very particular stance for those things. I think it's the right one. How come we don't have more progressives saying, I love LGBTQ, I love immigrants, I love climate change. Let's deal with these lefty issues totally. But folks, there's a way that money works, and you got to get this. And small business is the backbone, and you cannot tax them into 6 feet under the ground. Why don't we have more Democrats getting this?
I have no idea. Don't know.
Oh, there you go. That's what we do here. We bring the honest answers to you, the voters.
I don't know why they don't. I don't know why
honesty. Look at this. Yeah. Look, you're hearing real honesty. How often do you see that? Candidates going, that's all. I love it.
I love it. I have a business, and I'm fiscally conservative, and for one, I didn't want to be homeless, so I have to conserve my money and work hard, and do what I have to do to stay housed. If we're not fiduciary with all the money that is coming into the state, we're going to be in a way worse predicament than we are. And all you have to do is drive down any street, business street in any city, and you'll see at least a quarter to a third of the businesses are closed. They just went out of business over the last 18 months with the pandemic. They couldn't keep up, and it's emotionally so hard for the business owners because they put everything that they had into it, and people think, well, you're a business owner, you have money. That's not the way it is. Most business owners are living almost paycheck to paycheck, if not paycheck to paycheck. Plus they're concerned about their staff. They want their staff to be happy and they have a good life. And now we can't get people back to work because they're getting more money on unemployment than they are working. And businesses now have to use shorter hours because they don't have the staff. Like if it's a restaurant, they're closed on a Monday or Tuesday, and maybe they're not open till noon when they would be open at 10 o'clock before, and they closed early because they don't have the staff to handle the business.
Yeah. Okay. And about what would you do to combat violence against women and children, including the trafficking issue? And then we will get to the Cal exit question. Candidate Collins.
Well, as a mother and a woman, I'm extremely against child trafficking and things like that. I think the crisis at the border, there's a lot of child trafficking going on there that we're not aware of. The porn industry is it feeds into that makes this happen. And also, Dan Kelevitz, if you Google him, he was a porn lawyer before, he worked in the porn industry before he opened his own law firm. So if you Google that, and so I don't know why the Green Party's endorsing him when that could be, kind of the child trafficking thing. And I Googled him, I'm not making it up. You Google that, you put in his name and porn behind it comes up.
We are here to simply get information out to the public in an unfiltered manner. So it's whatever stance you want to take. We just want the voters to actually get a clear insight into each person. And I think you've been very honest about how you feel and your motivations. And I think it's clear to anybody watching this video who they're talking to and what it's about. And it'll reflect what you've said. Again, we're talking to Heather Collins.
Yeah, I'm not the strongest speaker. I say, what I feel and what I know. And I do get emotional about this because I feel strongly about these subjects.
Yeah. Well, I promised to keep it short, so we're going to move on to the big question of the day. You don't have to agree. You don't have to like it. We just want to have a conversation. What's wrong with talking about things in a democracy? Isn't that right? Isn't it okay to talk about things in a democracy?
I believe we should listen to all people and get all their concerns so we know what is bothering people. We can't fix anything if we don't know what people are concerned about. Like I said, I have a salon, so I see all of humanity coming in. And when they sit down in my chair, they talk nonstop. It's like they don't get touched on a daily basis. So when we're touching them, it's like, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. And, I deal with everybody, Republican, Democrat, other Green Party members, people that don't have any interest in anything like that. Their interests are Kardashians or something maybe. So I listen to people and I like to know what others are thinking and what they would like to have done, because that's how we accomplish things together. We can't do it separately. We have to do it together.
So right off your personal stance, what do you think about the idea of California being a nation? Good, bad, you understand it, but you're not sure, dead set against it?
I would not be for that. I like being part of the United States. There would be a whole, if it was its own country, there's, so much involved in that where you would have to have an army, navy, you'd have to start all that from scratch. So that would be a really difficult undertaking. And, I haven't heard this come up before, but, if, like I said, I'm against it. If it was brought up for a vote by the people and if the people wanted that, then I would go along with that. But I personally would like to stay in the United States.
That's fair. That's fair. What about the fact that California has been a donor state for 35 years? Famously, our schools are some of the worst funded in all of America. Our roads, our dams, our seaports, our levees. And yet we spend additional money to support 35 states who, according to the federal government, have better funded schools, better funded roads, better funded dams than us. Is it okay for us to fund 35 states to have everything better when we can't afford to fix it ourselves? Is that an okay thing to do?
It doesn't sound okay, but I don't know the specifics on this, so I don't want to just, give you an answer without really looking into
Sure.
it. But, that does sound a little concerning, and like education is so important to me, so I would hopefully the balance could shift a little bit, and would get more of the money back. But also, I know that it's the unions that for the retirement and everything like that they're they need more money just for that. So the money that we're raising for schools, and I funnel a lot of money through that lotto system. That I heard that all went into the schools, but I don't see it going in.
Sure, sure. But California has equivalent per pupil funding next to Alabama and Mississippi.
That's shocking.
And we spend a lot of our money on them. What if we actually spent our money on us? Would that be an okay thing?
I would like that if it went to education and not to, fund the pensions.
Sure, sure. But when we, for example, the gas tax, we recently raised the gas tax.
July
So
1st.
that was to raise about $23 billion over a 5-year period. We lost $23 billion in 1 year funding all these other states. And then we directly had to raise taxes on ourselves. You just said that one of the key things to get us back to the Golden State era was low taxes. So is funding 35 states to the point that we have to raise taxes on ourselves a good thing, or is it the exact opposite of what we should do to grow our economy?
Well, that sounds like the exact opposite that we should be doing. I don't know how that exactly works with the federal government. So, like, I can't give you a definite answer
Sure,
right now, but
sure.
that would definitely be something that should be addressed and audited and stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. Governor Schwarzenegger was the last governor to point this out. There was a federal report that came out every year pointing out how much states got and how much they put in. Governor Schwarzenegger pointed this out, and then the very next year, for the first time in 3 decades, the federal government stopped that reporting. So right after the governor brought it up, they did this report every single year where they pointed out how much California was giving to subsidize America. Schwarzenegger goes, hey, we subsidize you guys a lot. And then the very next year, for the first time in 3 decades, the federal government says, we're not releasing that report anymore. Is that cool?
No, that's sketch.
What about the fact that a lot of Californians feel that, a lot of American states don't like us? They don't like the fact we have 1/3 immigrants. They don't like LGBTQ. They don't like opinionated women. They don't like Latinos running around speaking Latin. And that's who we are.
Yeah.
And yet these same states who trash talk us, we're paying all their bills. Is it okay for us to be subsidizing people to the point that we can't take care of ourselves when those people literally don't like us for who we are as people?
Well, when you put it that way, absolutely, it's not right to do that. I have not really come in contact with anybody in other states that have felt the way that you've stated. I'm sure that there are people. And, I live in Los Angeles, so it's very open and free, and, everybody does their thing and nobody worries about anything. But that does not sound right if that's the way it is. So, yeah, like I said, I don't know for sure because I would need to see all that information.
Of course. Donald Trump, when he was running in 2020, had the Republican National Convention focused on one thing: don't be California. America's existed about 200 years. There has never been a political party convention in 2 centuries talking about how, hey, everybody in America who likes our party, let's hate on one state. That was for the first time, and the Republican Party, which is based mostly out of 35 states, picked California. Additionally, in the Nevada, you had somebody run for governor on a don't make our state California. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has famously said they will not California us. Florida governor has done that. So has the Oregon and Washington governors. We have major politicians running on don't be you, and they did that in the last 2 years. Yeah. Does that sound like a friendly environment from Americans to California, in your opinion?
Well, it sounds like they're actually looking to see what's going on in California with the overtaxing, where everybody's leaving businesses and people, and the lockdowns were the first and the harshest and the longest, and all that sort of thing. So I think that's what they're talking about, because that's one of the reasons, or the main reason why I decided to run for governor, because I don't want that for California either. I mean, if that's what they're saying about California, then Newsom should be ashamed of himself, because he has done this to us and done this to the country.
There's instances of Californians moving to those states and then having their houses spray painted, go back to California. We saw that in Oregon. It made the news. It also happened in Nevada. There's a little bit of instance there in Wyoming.
Yeah.
That's not cool, right? I mean, people saying,
yeah, it's not cool, but when all the Californians moved to a certain area, like I went and visited some friends that moved to Atlanta. They moved last December. I just went and visited them in July. And they were saying how, the prices of houses have gone up so much in just the last 6 months because everybody's moving here. And they were actually talking to another guy who had recently moved from California too. And they were both commiserating about that. So, and I was like, well, you're the reason why it's going up, because all these people are coming in with, if they've sold property, they've made some money off of California, and everything else, the rest of the country is cheaper except for New York. So,
sure.
yeah, and that's a huge reason to move out of state. But we're all the United States, so, hopefully we'll all get along. But I just thought it was funny that they were complaining when they're the ones that are helping.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So I can imagine that people that actually are from those states and live in those states aren't that happy that people are coming in and it's raising their rents and their property values.
Sure. It's causing resentment to this place. Last question. Donald Trump turned the Supreme Court conservative. The federal Supreme Court is now as conservative as it was 50 years ago. They have struck down California laws on high-capacity magazines. So we no longer get to have the law that prevents us from being gunned down. They've also backed up the case where police kicked in a minority person's door accidentally and gunned them down so that we can't prosecute them. They've also said that, hey, if Arizona wants to racially profile Mexican people, that's totally legal. And now they're looking at things like abortion and allowing Texas' abortion law to go unchecked and affect our ability here in California to assist anyone having an abortion. Let's say your sister, your cousin, your loved one, you could go to federal prison. So the conservative Supreme Court can literally strike down our laws and our protections that we enjoy here in California, and there's nothing that can be done about that. Is this sustainable? And how long do we stay part of a union that allows our laws and protections to be removed, and when there's nothing we can do about that?
Well, I do have high regard for the Supreme Court. And I don't know them personally, clearly, or anything like that, but I do believe that they would be fiduciary in their job to listen to the arguments in front of them and decide on those cases that are presented in front of them. I want to believe they would be impartial and just listen to the evidence and decide on that. But like Texas, I think, stopping abortion at first heartbeat, I think that's a little over the top. I believe in my body, my choice. It's your medical history. If you ever get in a position like that and have to make a hard decision, that's one of the worst things that you can probably do. Like, to make that decision, not to have the abortion or not have the abortion. Because either way, that's something that stays with you forever.
Sure.
And men don't have to deal with that. It's just women that have to deal with that. And I just, I would like to see that Texas law overruled.
But if it's not, and if our gun protections are removed, and if our safe places for LGBTQ are removed, and if our ability to protect land and our air quality regulations are struck down, and if some of our allowances for making sure that women aren't victimized are struck down, and their ability to file class action lawsuits for sexism is struck down, which did happen by the court, how much of this do we put up with before we go, wow, we're losing a lot of our rights and there's nothing we can do about it?
Well, we've lost a lot of our rights in California this past year. So, I'm not happy about that. That's why I'm running for governor. And like, you're giving me what ifs, and until it actually happens, I can't really say anything about that, because it's that's just out in the future. I do know that we lost a lot of our rights in the last year and a half in this state and in this country, and with vaccine mandates. Like, I am all for vaccine, being vaccinated and everything like that, but I don't want to mandate, and I don't want to have a vaccine passport that you have to show some random restaurateur your health history to get a meal. That's not American to me.
Fair enough. Okay, well, last minute comments. How would you like to be remembered by 40 million people? Many voters coming up in a minute or less. What would you say to people so that they have the right idea about your campaign as they go up to Tuesday to vote?
Well, I would like to say I would like to be remembered as California's first woman governor and first green governor. And I am not a queer politician. I'm not in anybody's pocket. So I will do what is right for California and the people that live here, and the future people that will live here coming into California once we get it back to the golden state that it was before. That's what I would like to be remembered as.
That's candidate Heather Collins. You can find her at Governor Heather. That's www.governorheather.com. That's www.governorheather.com, or email her at California@governorheather. Thank you very much for being with us today. We deeply appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening, and we'll see you back here at 8 o'clock for another interview with another candidate who might be ruler or leader of the world's fifth largest economy. See you soon.
Bye.